How are you, Ashwin?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Yeah, doing great, doing great. How's everything going on? And
Thankfully, for now, everything is okay, and hopefully the same with your end.
yeah, same, same. So, how's everything at Tech AI going on?
Going good, going good. I think we're at a unique position where we have got traction. We have the backing the of the investors, most important customers. So
Exactly.
exciting times ahead, I would say.
Great, great. And how was the impact of COVID on tech? Was it positive? Was it just like we didn't watch? How was it?
Yeah, it was mixed. It was mixed for sure. Initial days were
Uh-huh.
uh, definitely, um, definitely, very, very scary. um, March 2020 and plus 3 months, I would say. Yeah, after that, it was survival. Another 3 months was survival, and then after that, it's all about scaling up. Actually, right? I think I would say it's potentially the story of every company or every startup, right? Maybe for you, uh, it can possibly has worked in your favor because more and more people are now realizing that they need to upskill not just students but also professionals. That even I have 14 years of experience, I still believe I need to upskill myself constantly. I think this period has reinforced that belief that upskilling is important. I think maybe potentially for you, um, again, it's very wrong to say as an opportunity, but it's sort of a tailwind for your business, right?
To that. Like previously, we were primarily into the offline space for a couple of years, and then COVID happened, and COVID actually made all the businesses the tech friendly. So it made all the business tech savvy. So you need to come into the tech and section, and we adopted as wholeheartedly, and we actually seen a huge change in the positivity, and like we actually understood how big the market we were missing previously. So
Absolutely.
and at the same time, you also analyze your entire business systems, how it's working, whether they're efficient, what kind of new initiatives to come in, and put it into your business so that it becomes competitive. So yeah, it was a challenging but very interesting time, and our entire team learned many lessons with the COVID-19. So yeah, it was a very challenging, but experience was very good.
That's great to hear. I think I would say, great entrepreneurs are the ones who would brave the odds and they would to convert every single, oddity or a, situation, bad situation into opportunity, right? I think that's what great entrepreneurs are. I think I'm sure you're one of them.
Great, great. And if you can just elaborate, I was just going through your LinkedIn. I can see you're basically education from IIM, and then you did your MBA from ISB, and you have multiple like you have worked into the multiple organization with the departments. So and if I see seen your recent experience with Tech AI, now I would like to just brief me what it basically does, like what Tech AI does.
Yeah, sure. So in a nutshell, so we are building a CRM for the mobile world, actually, right? For the mobile world where now it's not completely mobile, but we are essentially sort of reimagining customer relationship management. And our founder has spent 26 years of experience in CRM world, and he realized CRM, which was essentially built for sales reps, has become an admin tool, right? Sales reps are no more, they're no more like CRM, and that's the universal truth, and that's a hard truth. Right? No sales rep would love to spend time logging into CRM. Right? I think every marketing, sales ops, sales folks, would agree to this. So we are sort of reimagining a CRM which would be truly beneficial and valuable for sales. Right? So we are taking a approach where we are building a AI-based assistant for sales reps, which sits on top of existing Salesforce system. And this assistant, what it does is it will automate and sort of align and organize the life of a sales rep all the way from what's the plan for the day, organizing the calendar, organizing, taking all the notes, similar to a executive assistant would take notes after every call, and everything will log into Salesforce automatically, right, on the click of a button. So in a nutshell, we're building a front end for sales reps. We are starting with the sales assistant, and we are essentially, building a CRM which will be launched in the next 1 or 2 quarters.
Great, great. So I think it's a very interesting domain that you're working in. That is future basically, and I think since last 2 years with the COVID happened, I think if you talk about the investments, then I think AI attracted, and especially B2B domain attracted a huge investment from the VCs and other. I think it's a great that you're doing amazing work, and your tremendous experiences, your everything. It's glad that you accepted our invitation, and you basically would be ready to share your thoughts, experiences on the topic that we have chosen for the today's session, that is zero cost growth hack. So, would you like to elaborate our audiences? Obviously, more and more audiences will be joining in 5 to 10 minutes. Would you like to just do a quick teaser about the growth hacks or something? Because these are all the students who are very new to digital. They have just started learning digital marketing, so maybe they can get a good context.
All right, sure. So before we get started, it'll be great to have a quick show of hands. So it'll be great if we can potentially just write whether you're a student, or you're a fresher, or experienced professional, or founder, right? Maybe four buckets. If you can just drop a note in the chat, that'll be very helpful. That'll help me sort of, while I can't really change the content right now, but I will try and, sort of tone down, sort of repackage my language based on 80% of the crowd, right? That's the best practice, 80-20, focus on 80% of the audience. So student, working professional, fresher, and founder. It's great to see some founders out there. Kudos to you folks. You are the rainmakers. You are the ones who possibly, you do best job after let's say public servants, right? Because you essentially create jobs. You do multiple things, right? Which creates multiplier effect actually, right? For example, when you raise funds, you create jobs. You potentially get an exit. 10 other people will start, and imagine that, right? And Flipkart and many others have showed it, right? Yeah, great to see some students. Hello to all of you. I think the whole definition of learning has changed now. I don't think it's about reading a predefined set of things, but I think it's really discovering and exploring and really learning things on the go, right? Learning things on the go may not be about, of course, I have huge value for education, formal education. I have spent 20 plus years studying and doing the formal education. I'm not saying you have to drop out of school, but I think as you study, but I think the most important thing is to pick up one, figure out, what you would love to do. I think how we can do that is by trying to do multiple experiments, right? Working as a freelancer alongside your, studies, do projects, get into case study competition. If you're an engineer, so try and get into some hackathons. I think the first 2 years, 3 years should be all about discovery, I think. And I will also talk a bit about myself, how, I think in a nutshell, I was a programmer, started as an engineer, but was a terrible programmer actually, right? And then I just couldn't focus. But I became a programmer because everyone did, right? All of my friends studied in a reasonably good college. Everyone went to great product companies. I also sort of followed them. I just couldn't stare at the black screen. But I discovered And I will talk about it in a bit. Let everyone join. So I think we are pretty close to 7 o'clock.
Yes, like within maybe next 3 minutes, we're going to begin our session.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so great to see a good mix of students, professionals, and and founders as well. It's always great to see variety, right? Always believe variety is the spice of life, and then that's how we can also learn. Again, just an anecdote from my B school career, right? Somewhere 10 years back. So the one advantage of studying in ISP is mostly people are working professionals. 3+ years is the average work age people get into while they're at ISP, and it's great to see. At the one end you would see an IPS official, who is I still remember, my batchmate was an IPS official. Uh, at the one end, you have this amazing, public servant. On the other end, you have a social worker. On the other end, you have this highly creative Ogilvy Matter ad person, right? Yeah, definitely. I think the learning when you essentially work with diverse people is unparalleled, right? And the kind of perspective they come up with, mostly would have never thought of actually. And hence, what we will do, Raj, is we will not make it a one-way conversation. We will spend about 30 minutes, 30 minutes in sort of, I'll share my learnings. I'll always talk about it as learnings because there's always a better way to do it. That's not really the end formula, the magic formula. So after that, let's dedicate a good amount of time for Q&A actually, right? Where people can ask specific questions. I will try and answer them. Again, the disclaimer is, I spend most of my time in the world of B2B, right? So I might not be able to answer questions like, how to do Facebook marketing, things like that, right? I can give you some framework, but I am not the best person, right? So, um, so that's the disclaimer. So, however, in anything in B2B marketing / product management, pre-sales, sales, yeah, happy to share my learnings on those topics actually.
Great. So,
right, I think it's 7:01. I think shall we get started formally?
so first of all, welcome to everyone.
Hello.
First of all, welcome to everyone.
கேக்குதாடா?
Yeah, it is. Okay, so first of all, welcome everyone to DG Masterclass 3.0, where we invite Asia's leading digital professional for a Power Pack Masterclass session. And today we have with us a very special guest, Mr. We have with us Mr. Ashwin. So he is basically marketing director for Tech AI. And today, basically the topic for the session is zero cost growth hack. So I'll just give you first of all the brief about Ashwin Krishna. So he's basically award-winning entrepreneur, B2B marketing growth leader with a strong commercial and acumen with a 15 years of experience. Just a second. Okay, yeah, and he has a 15 years of experience of delivering a high hyper growth in product SaaS companies across the Middle East, APAC, and the USA. He has extensive experience across branding, field marketing, demand generation, digital events, PR, pre-sales, PLN management, strategic planning. He has worked across a diverse audience. Maybe you talk about SMBs or enterprises and so on. He has worked in multiple industries, whether it's a cloud, SaaS, marketing, e-commerce, networking, digital advertisement across the region. You can visit his LinkedIn profile as well that has been shared with. So, without any further delay, I think over to you, Ashwin, and you can do the session.
Sure. Raj, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, Ashwin, I can see.
Oh, perfect. So first of all, thank you, Raj. It's always a pleasure to talk to students alongside others. Always great to sort of share my learnings, also sort of try and you know also sort of gain the energy, right? So students are possibly the most important audience who can actually make a huge difference for the country actually, right? Because they're the ones who have fresh thoughts, They're the ones who doesn't have that baggage of, okay, this is how it is going to work, right? They're the ones who will come up with fresh thoughts. So one starting point in which I would like to talk to students is, really, the whole dreaming big and, sort of figuring out your way to make it a reality, right? And then possibly, I will talk about, how growth hacking is also sort of, intertwined with life as well, because growth hacking is all about experiments actually, right? Hello everyone. So I think good evening. I think most of you are based out of India time zone. So good evening. And so as Raj mentioned, so I have spent quite a bit of time in B2B marketing. So I blog at growton.co. So this is where you can find out what I share. Also you can follow me on LinkedIn. So before we get started, I always love trivia actually, right? So right from my school days, so I thought it'd be fun opportunity to sort of break the ice, right? Before I start rambling actually. All right, so this is the first question. Uh, so which company does this represent, right? So this is a poster, right? This is like a mission statement, not really a mission statement, but uh, if you sort of remember, I think this was been widely talked about, a few years back. So if you can sort of just drop a note in comments, which company does this represent? I think that'll be great. That'll be great to sort of. Yeah, I'm looking at your chats. Let's see, who would give it a shot. So which company does this represent? Right? Or where can you see this poster? Possibly. All right. All right. So Ritik has answered this correctly. Yeah. So Ritik Gupta, yeah. So this is Facebook, right? I think this is a great point to start with because, fundamentally, if you look at Facebook, the way they've grown, not the best way to grow, definitely, right? There are multiple issues, but if you really distill down, one of the positive things is they have really built this true entrepreneurial culture where people get an opportunity to really move fast and break things. It doesn't mean that you have to actually break things like breaking a line of code, but it's okay. It's okay to fail. Is really the nutshell, right? So the two things here. So one is really moving fast and really sort of making experiments, right? And this, very nicely ties back to growth hacking. Now, I'll come to that in a while. And the next one, right? So what is the concept of personalization introduced potentially, right? Most of the cases, a new idea is coined by either a consultant or it will be coined in a book. So a hint is it's in a book. I'm looking for a date, not really a date, sorry, a year, right? So if you can drop your guesses in the comment box, that would be great. In the chat box, sorry, that would be great. Wild guess, right? Wild guess. Which year potentially the concept of personalization was introduced to the world? It's fine, folks. We can take guesses. There's no negative marks. It's fine. It's just fun, right? Okay, someone says 2016. Looking for more answers, actually. Looking for more answers. 2000. Great. 2008. Sure. So some more answers, 2002. I think a lot of the folks are really still stuck to 2000. Another big clue, actually. I mean, while there's no definitive answer to this, but this is from my sort of research, right? All right. So some interesting answers for sure. And interestingly, again, I happen to know about this book through a friend of mine. If you can't believe this, right? There's this book which was written in 1923 by Cloud, and this talks about scientific advertising, actually, right? So Cloud talks about how to personalize a mail order, right? Mail order is nothing but in the US, you are sending a package, let's say a brochure. That was all about it, right? Back then it was events, mail orders. I don't know whether there was cold call, but I haven't read this book, but I've essentially read a lot about this, that about this book. That this is an amazing book actually. So interestingly, from a first principles point of view, the whole concept of personalization has been around from close to 100 years actually, right? All right, so quick brief about myself. I think we've spoken about it, so I'll just quickly talk about it. So I have an experience of a failed programmer. I have experience of failing in two startups. In fact, we started aggregating homestays in 2008. This is the same year when Airbnb, right? Airbnb is it is valued more than $20 billion right now. It is the same year when Airbnb also got started, but just that we didn't have that vision to sort of take it forward actually, right? So after that, an engineer turned programmer turned marketer, right? So when I was running my startup, I was really hooked onto marketing, right? Because it's really a profession which will really teases your right brain and the left brain, right? Which is the analytical side as well as the creative side, right? So I fell in love with marketing, and since then I spent close to 13 14 years of experience in marketing. So I've been fortunate to work with companies like Capillary, which is backed by Sequoia and Warburg Pincus. Warburg Pincus, a huge private equity firm, they actually backed Capillary, which is the first technology private equity deal for Warburg Pincus, actually, right? So I spent close to 7 years with Capillary, almost grow them like close to 15 times, almost from, let's say, 100,000 ARR to multi-million dollar kind of a scenario, right? I also grew the team from, I was the first person in marketing, and there was this point in time we were about 35 people actually. And then finally, right now I work with TAC, which is backed by, interestingly, Salesforce, Microsoft, and Amazon, right? The three top cloud vendors in the world, right? Cloud/SaaS companies in the world. So all the three companies have invested in us, and that itself talks that that it's an interesting and a promising idea actually. Right. So what can you expect? I think in the next 25-30 minutes, what I'll essentially share is what is growth hacking, some examples of growth hacking, and then most importantly, from my learnings, 5 practical frameworks / examples, right? And then after that, we'll spend quite a bit of time with Q&A actually. All right. So this is a growth hack, in fact, true to what the topic, right? So I will share this deck with you, but I will need you to do just one thing, right? So stay tuned with the topic, stay tuned with the discussion. And if you truly believe, you have learned something, let's say one concept or one framework or one topic, so write about that on LinkedIn, tag me, right? If you want to add screenshots, great, well and good. Otherwise, it's fine. Just write about this, tag me, and then once you write a post, and then just drop me that link as a message, right? And then I'll send you the deck, right? And yeah, this is a great way to share knowledge, potentially also my followers. All right. So what is growth hacking, right? I think growth hacking in a fundamental terms, it's about building that repeatable and scalable growth with an optimal time and investment, actually. Right. So end of the day, marketers have always been doing this, right? Marketing, product management, some of the folks have always been doing, working on growth. But the big difference with growth hacking is about time and money, right? Time and money, right? So if you're a large company, venture backed, or a publicly listed company, you have tons of money to spend, tons of money to really spend, right? You can really spurge on digital ads, you can really spurge on huge events, so on and so forth. But that just doesn't really happen with a small team, or with a let's say with a founder only marketing team, or let's say if it's bootstrapped. So the fun part of growth hacking is really you show the growth, let's say in terms of visitors, in terms of app installs, for a B2C company, or in terms of revenues for a B2B company. And how do you do that? You do that repeatably, right? Repeatably and in scalable way. It's not that you run a campaign, you get, let's say, a couple of thousand app installs, and then if you're not able to scale it up and do it repeatably, that's not growth hacking, right? That's possibly by luck, or by one of the campaigns would have clicked. So it's absolutely important to keep in mind the experiments you do has to be scalable, and then finally you're able to sort of build and make that repeatable actually. And it's a function of both time and investment. So the least amount of time and the least amount of money you spend, merrier it is actually. And interestingly, if you look at the whole, one lens to look at, right? How famous or how popular this whole term called growth hacking, right? If you look at the Google Trends indexes the popularity of any term for 100. So what it means is whenever the ranking is 100, whenever the index is 100, then the phrase or the keyword is at the maximum popularity. So sometime in the end of 2019 or in the beginning of 2020 is when the term growth hacking has hit the maximum popularity, right? So what it truly means is there are people, there are jobs, there are specific jobs about growth hacking. People accept this whole term called growth hacking, so on and so forth. And as I said, who is a growth hacker? Right? So growth hacking is an intersection, right? It's really an intersection of digital storytelling, product management, and user experience actually, right? You need not be an expert in all of this, but you should have some sort of a flair, right? Some sort of basic understanding about, let's say, if you're building a landing page, right? What are the 5 things which will truly command, truly say that the landing page has a great user experience, right? You need not be a designer, right? So all you have to say is, the page has to load within 4 seconds. The page should not have more than 4 folds or 5 folds. The first fold is the most important thing. Can you convince them in the first fold, or in the first 3 or 4 seconds, etc. Right? That's like an example. The beauty of growth hacking is it's an interdisciplinary thought. As I said, which cuts across digital, branding / storytelling / content marketing, product management, and user experience actually. So the big question, right? So how can you become a growth hacker actually? And I think it all starts with the mindset. I think the number one thing that you should have in mind, if you want to become a growth hacker, is the mindset to become to say that failure is okay, right? Because at the end of the day, every day you would potentially do a couple of experiments or maybe more experiments. Failure is going to happen. Failure is going to be part of life. So you've got to accept failure is going to be okay to you, right? So that's one of the key elements from the mindset point of view. So the most important thing is keeping the user at the center of everything actually. Let's say you're running a digital campaign, you'll think about what is the best copy which will resonate with the user, right? So then after the copy, then you'll build a landing page. So how can you help the user to achieve their goal, by opening the landing page, right? So sign up will definitely happen if you give them the right information, if you persuade them, if you build the trust, right? So you will definitely be able to achieve your goals actually. So think about the user, start with the user and end with the user actually, right? Everything in between is going to be the user. And then most important thing is the metrics, because end of the day, so growth comes when you understand, when you dissect the vast amount of data you have, let's say data from Google Analytics, data from your marketing automation system. How will you sort of marry this data and make sense out of it actually, right? And then so data speaks louder than words, right? So that's another thing I want to say. So no matter how much you would talk about, hey, I want to do this, but the only thing which will essentially talk volumes about your work is the outcomes actually, right? And then please make sure data is at the core of everything actually. And how do you operationalize this, right? Let's say you want to uh, launch a campaign, because campaign is, let's say, a operational form of let's say growth hacking, right? How do you essentially do it, right? So let's number one thing is you have to build an hypothesis or an assumption, right? So for example, uh, there are let's say you want to build the landing page. So the hypothesis for your landing page would be, who is the potential visitor, how much time they'll potentially spend, right? And then the hypothesis will be, let's say 50% of the visitors are from mobile. Again, most of this are backed by data actually. The previous data, the historical data, if you have, most of you might not have the historical data, then you have to rely on examples from similar industries or from the same industries actually, right? You define the hypothesis saying, hey, this is my, let's say for a landing page, this is my user. 50% of them will come on mobile, and hence I'll build a landing page which is possibly mobile friendly. And then you'll also set a target, right? So typically 3% of the people will convert. Let's say 100 people come to the landing page and 3% will convert. So that's your hypothesis. That's how we'll start with. Then let's implement the idea quickly, right? So the second step in the process is to really implement it, build the landing page, by a methodical process saying we have 4 folds. Let the landing page speed is less than 4 seconds, mobile friendly. Let's build the trust. Let's talk about logos in the second fold, talk about the value proposition in the first fold, so on and so forth, right? And then you'll start tracking the data actually, right? There are tools which will help you analyze the landing page. It will tell you where people are dropping off, then where people are spending the maximum amount of time. Right? Let's say you find data which says a lot of the time people are spending on the logos, the customer logos whom you put up. Undoubtedly, that's one. If you look at first principles point of view, people would really trust your customers, right? If you put a bunch of customer logos, they will trust because they are real life examples. So then pick up those winning ideas, right? So let's say you put the logos in third fold, and people are really spending a lot of time, let's say reading a testimonial or just looking at the logos, right? So that is a winning idea. So what it means is you have to find that winning idea, potentially move it to the first fold, right? Just after the value proposition, right? Not in the third fold potentially, because while a lot of the people are dropping off in the first fold, but people who are coming to the third fold, they're really spending time. What it means is that is important. So finding the winning idea is the third step, right? And then you potentially have to get into the next experiment saying, move these logos in the first fold and see what happens, right? And this is a constant iteration, right? There is no end. There is no end to this process actually, right? So you'll start with A. You say, this is my experiment. This is my hypothesis. This is the outcome I want to achieve, and these are the reasons why you will get to that outcome, right? You will have potentially 5 reasons or 5 experiments. You will execute them and then figure out, okay, 2 of them will work, 3 of them will not work. So junk them off, scale those 2 ideas, come up with 2 more ideas. Let's say making the landing page, change the structure of the landing page. Let's say reducing the number of text fields in the landing page, right? We'll potentially start with 4. We'll start with 5, let's say 5 fields. Then you'll figure out people are really dropping off in the 4th text box actually, right? Then you remove one of them, make it 4. That can be one experiment actually, right? So rinse and repeat, right? So define the hypothesis, define clearly what outcome you want to deliver, define what are the critical success factors are, what are the experiments you want to do it, right? Implement it, pick up the winning ideas, really scale the whole process actually. And the most important thing is the right tools, right? So not everything can be done manually, and hence you have to find the right tools, when in the whole process of growth hacking, right? Uh, so right now, I think I was looking at the marketing technology landscape. I don't know. I think there are thousands of companies, right? There are thousands of companies which are listed, and the beauty of it is every small experiment you want to do, potentially there is a tool which is ideally, which is ideal for that. Or there is a set of tools. There is a tool which sort of cuts across multiple experiments, right? So I think the most important thing is to choose the right tool and ensure the data across the tools, comes in one place, right? Sort of, you integrate the tools, have the data in one place so that you can really see the big picture, right? The full funnel, all the way from, let's say, impressions to revenue for a SaaS. So that's important. So if you really marry this mindset, if you marry this process with the right set of tools, I can very confidently say that you are really in the right path to become a successful growth hacker. There are some interesting examples, right? So Airbnb is it's a bed and breakfast. I don't know how to talk about Airbnb, in fact. So this is an interesting example where Airbnb raised their seed money. You know what? How they did it? Not really through their booking, actually. Somewhere in 2008, when they started, that was a time when US elections were happening, right? And then one end there was Obama, and then other end there was McCann, right? Both of them were presidential candidates. So what they really did is they sourced cornflakes and grains, in bulk. They packaged them. They sort of branded them nicely using this funny characters, and they sold these boxes. Where did they sold it? They actually sold these boxes in this presidential campaign trail, right? Because every president, what he or she does is they go to a specific city, they attend an event, right? Whether it's a fundraiser event or a bunch of their followers would come in, and he or she would talk about what's the vision for this specific state, so on and so forth, right? They actually went and sold these boxes, in the specific events, actually, right, where the presidential nominees were talking, actually, and hence they raised the seed money, about $30,000. They sold about close to, I think, 1,000 boxes. Each costed about $30, right? So that's about $30,000, actually. Interesting idea, right? And then just there's a lot of stories that are, you should definitely go and spend time on, how Airbnb really grew, especially if you're in the consumer space, actually. And the second example of Airbnb is this whole thing around Craigslist platform integration, right? So Airbnb was a listing platform, right? So where anyone can come in, they can take the photos of their let's say apartment or their villa, and they upload onto Airbnb and say, hey, we have a house available where people can come and stay, right? So, however, Airbnb as a website, they didn't have traffic, of course, as of any other startup, right? So what did they do, right? So what did they do? So they built a bot where people, when they come to Airbnb to list their property, they uh, added a button called add a listing on Craigslist. So Craigslist is nothing but it's a crowdsourced platform, where people would go and sort of list any items they had. It's a buyer and seller platform, right? So sellers can go and sort of list their items. It can be anything, right? Anything on that, right? All the way from furniture to whatnot. And people would come and sort of look at a listing, and and they can get the contact and they can get connected. So what they did, so Craigslist back then had hundreds and thousands of visitors. So they built a plugin. They built this one plugin where whenever people came to Airbnb, when they were listing their property, they said add this to Craigslist as a button, right? The moment somebody clicks on add this to Craigslist, the property listing would be automatically posted onto Craigslist with a URL linking back to Airbnb, actually. Imagine I have property. I take a bunch of photos. I go to Airbnb. I add all the contact information, I add all the details, then I click on this button called add to Craigslist. So what happens is my property listing would be added to Craigslist as a new listing, and a URL back to the Airbnb website, back to the listing, my listing on Airbnb actually. Um, so they actually growth hacked this, and um, you know everyone who came to Airbnb for putting a new listing, they were not only able to get a lot of calls because their posting was also present on Craigslist. The beauty of that was Craigslist didn't had holiday listing as a category actually, right? So a lot of them started discovering homes, properties on Craigslist, and they came to Airbnb and they actually got to know about it. Investment was zero, marketing investment was zero, and of course they did spend time and money, to build that plugin. But it was a brilliant idea. I think it was one of the classical growth hack examples anyone would talk about. And then the whole uh, Dropbox example is another classical example, right? Some of you might remember this was again way back in 2012 of sorts, where you would get 500 MB if you log in and if you create an account. You will get 500 MB of cloud space. But however, if you refer your friend and your friend would join, create a login on Dropbox, your friend would get 500 MB and you would get 500 MB, right? And this is another uh, possibly one of the earliest examples of refer a friend, right? And which truly worked. All right, so let's jump into, while this is some generic examples, so let's jump into some of into the 5 growth hacks, which I will share based on my learning. Right. So the growth hack one is the founder, right? Let's say if you're running a startup, you are the one, you are really the growth hack number one. So what it means is, you as a founder, right, stands for something, right? So Kunal Shah as a founder stands for something, right? He stands for creativity, he stands for cred, he stands for entrepreneurship, so on and so forth, actually, right? And you will say, hey, Kunal Shah, when he writes, thousands and potentially millions of people would watch, and essentially the cred as a brand would get built. Not really, right? You need not be a Kunal Shah to really talk in the social media. So on the right hand side, again, Shashank is a friend. He started this company with a vision to sort of, as he rightly says, rebuilding the trust, in the food, right? So he's building a health food company where he talks about how our food is actually screwed, right? Because of chemicals, sweeteners, all other chemical ingredients, which is really making it worse, actually, right? So I actually encountered Shashank just on LinkedIn, right? So how he actually made this interesting ad, very funny ad, doesn't really costed a bomb to him. He made this ad and he sort of posted it, and then it was all about not about his product. It is about why is our food currently not great, right? And I essentially encountered or discovered Shashank. I started following him and also bought a bunch of these nutritional bars. So what it means is, as a founder, right, or even let's say you're a student, if you want to build your own personal brand, I think now is the right time to get started, actually, right? So how do you do it? Right? Pick your audience, right? So let's say as a founder, you will have a set of users, right? You'll have a set of users. Let's say it's a B2C or a B2B product. And of course, you will have a predefined set of target audience. And this target audience has a set of problem statements, right? So let's say you are in beauty space, you are building let's say an organic cosmetics brand. So the pain points are very, very, very specific, right? Your audience would love to use organic products. They're possibly the ones who are already affected by the chemical cosmetics, so on and so forth. So then start talking about it, right? Start talking about some of the beauty tips and tricks, right? So some of the things which is not about your product, So things which is going to alleviate as a solution, for the pain point, right? So let's say talk about, how cucumber can be used, how cucumber can be used as a cooling agent, right? When somebody is stressed, it is nothing to do with your product, but it is in the same space of, let's say skin health, and then people who care about skin health will potentially also buy your product, right? So number one is, identify your audience, understand their pain points, and start talking about pain points, right? Start talking about the stories which will essentially help, actually. Right. So, for example, if you are a student and potentially you are interested in getting a job in artificial intelligence, right? So, start talking about artificial intelligence. Read a lot of stuff. Don't just share a link, but really talk about, what did you learn from that, right? What did you learn from that specific article, or what do you really feel about, let's say, artificial intelligence and the impact of AI in, let's say, jobs, right? So pick up the audience, pick up the topics, and pick up the topics which will resonate with them, and start talking about it, actually, right? And then there are various different form of the stories we can really talk. So one is the contextual stories, right? Let's say uh, you are a furniture brand. Let's say you're a furniture brand. You are a founder of a furniture brand. The contextual story for you would be, uh, how does one really become better while working from home, right? End of the day, you talking about productivity as a furniture brand CEO might not make sense initially, but just imagine this, right? Whoever is really focused on productivity but connected from home would potentially end up buying your product, because um, the moment they start feeling that you are this personality who is talking about productivity, so on and so forth, they will start following you. And there is highly likely that, if they trust you as a founder, they'll also trust the brand, because you are essentially nothing but the mirror image of the brand, actually, right? um, so it all starts with the audience. The second is, what are the pain points for your audience, and then you essentially talking about stories which really resonates with the pain points of your audience. Number two is the really picking the right channel, right? And of course, if you're a consumer brand, uh, not high value, then you would go with Instagram and the Facebooks of the world. But the big challenge with Facebook is the whole Facebook algorithm now is highly skewed for advertising. So what it means is, you might really, if you're on Facebook for quite a long time, you would potentially see this, right? You will potentially you might be getting hundreds of likes. A few years back, you would hardly get 30, 40 likes now. So what it means is, the Facebook algorithm has really now highly skewed towards, let's say, companies posting some stuff or a sponsored post, right? And hence, or if you are a high value B2C product, or a very niche B2C product, or a B2B product, then of course the LinkedIn would be no-brainer channel, actually. There's some new channels which are emerging, like Clubhouse. Thankfully, Clubhouse is now it's on Android, actually, right? Uh, so experiment with these channels, right? So figure out where does your audience hang out. LinkedIn is definitely not the only answer. So spend time, talk to your audience, figure out what are the different channels they hang out, right? It can be on a community, Slack community, or it can be in a, let's say, your audience is sales reps. Sales reps, hang out in this community called Sales Hacker, right? Especially sales reps in the US, actually, right? So find out these channels. Uh, that's the second step. So third step is, just be consistent, actually, right? So if you think of writing 3 posts a week, write 3 posts a week, maybe on the same time, but definitely on the same day, actually. Let's say you talk about something on Monday, Wednesday, and then Saturday. Just be consistent, actually. uh, all you have to do is go get up, plan for the week, execute the posts, and then come back and constantly learn. In the initial days, when you post stuff, you might get 0 likes, right? That's fair enough, right? However, the beauty of social is engagement doesn't mean everything, right? Even if 10 people have seen it, maybe one of them, none of them have engaged. It's fine. Uh, Start talking to your friends. Start talking to your friends. When you post stuff, a lot of the folks who are your close friends would be seeing posts. Ask them, critical feedback. How can you get better? And ensure your friends are also your potential buyers, actually, right? Because end of the day, you need a sample set for feedback. Uh, who is part of the target audience? And the simple hack is, go forward and spend time in building your audience, right? Add friends. Let's say on LinkedIn. Let's say you are a tool who is positioned for security professionals. Let's say you're building a antivirus software, right? So go ahead and filter all the security professionals, who are working, let's say companies, and then start adding them. Actually, just write a note, tell them, hey, you're passionate about security industry. You would like to, connect, and then sort of exchange notes. Right. So there are also some tools like Publer, and then not really Publer, sorry, Octopus CRM, where you can filter a set of people on LinkedIn with one click of button, add all of them on Octopus, and on Octopus you can send about 50 connection requests, and you can customize the message. Right. You can do this, but however, the catch is LinkedIn is increasingly putting flags on people who are using this automation tools. So I would say, be watchful about it, right? So that's the growth hack one. And then this is the distribution framework, right, for social. At the core is you or your brand, and the first immediate circle who will engage with your posts are your employees. Either your employees, if you're a startup, or your friends. Make sure if you're truly committed to build a brand, ask people to engage, right? Request them, plead them, beg and borrow, right? Beg and borrow likes in initial days. uh, because the moment they engage, their outreach will be faster. Friends or employees like, their friends would get to know, right? And in the whole process, bunch of the influencers will see that your posts are highly valuable, and the rest of the world, right? It just explodes. So the trick is to crack the inner circle first. Inner circle is really your brand, which is the content, and timing, and how do you tell the story, etc. Then ensure your employees, your friends would sort of engage with them, and then constantly learn the tricks, right? Constantly learn the tricks and grow. How do you really get PR attention with $0 spend, right? Uh, we got this, right? We were featured in Forbes, and this is how we did it actually. Let's imagine you are, I'll go back to that antivirus example where you're building antivirus software for, for let's say companies actually, right? So what you got to do is step number one is to go and find out all the journalists who are covering stuff in antivirus industry. Let's say somebody who is covering, security technology, so on and so forth, right? So make a list of journalists. Just go to Google News, search for these keywords. You will find the articles. After you find the articles, in every article there is a name, there is a journalist name. A lot of the times you'll also get their email ID there and there. Yeah, so build an email list for this target journalists, right? You can use tools like Rocket Reach, where you can give the name, first name and the last name, and the company name. You'll potentially be able to find the email ID. There are many tools out there. So make the list of journalists, get their email IDs, and start doing 1:1 messaging, right? Especially for a founder, uh, a lot of them would appreciate that you're doing an outreach. Um, Tell them you are a founder X, your name is X, you have spent X amount of X years in the security industry, you'll be more than happy to share insights about security industry to this specific journalist A, right? End of the day, what does journalists need? What they need is scoops, insights, unique insights. End of the day, they will turn out these insights into breaking news. Apart from funding, there are multiple other insight-led articles they write, right? Then hence, reach out to them and tell them, hey, I am H. I have so much of years of experience. We're building this product. We have so much of data in our system. Or you can just say that, happy to sort of connect and, comment on any stories which is about, let's say, security or antivirus, right? A lot of them will reach out to you because you're going to be persistent, actually, right? Uh, you're not going to pitch your company in the initial email. You're going to talk about how can you add value and insights to the potential stories the journalists would potentially write, right? And be persistent. Then a lot of the journalists will come back and say, hey, uh, let's get on a 30-minute call. I'm writing an article on, let's say, impact of cybersecurity when people are connected from home, right? Impact of cybersecurity during pandemic, right? So get on a call, expect nothing initial days, right? All you have to do is, with a free mind, share insights, of course, and not something confidential, share your knowledge, right? And then be very, very open. The most important thing is to be on the fast tail, right? After you have this few calls, some of the journalists will start calling you and ask you for inputs. Hey, a company X, company A is acquiring company B in the antivirus domain. So do you want to comment about it, right? Do you want to, as you're an industry expert, do you want to comment about it, right? So what happens is your name and your company name will start appearing in small snippets as a comment, right? So that's really the first small milestone that you can win. Finally finally the full story, right? And the same thing happened with Hari, who is he's a managing editor for technology in Forbes India. So we reached out to him about a year back. We mentioned how we have a point of view around artificial intelligence, especially in retail. He was very interested. He had multiple calls. He visited us. He met our CEO. He met our team. He met our R&D team. One fine day, after I think 11 months, he called me and said, "Hey, that article will be out next week." And boom, right? We had the article, and somewhere in the 11th month, actually, right? So getting a cover story or a feature story takes a lot of blood and sweat. But however, if you do this methodically, you can definitely see success. So third is about every company wants to do good, right? Every company wants to do CSR, or they do this socially relevant activities. The idea is how do you really tell the story in an interesting way so that it will directly connect back to the brand, right? So let me share an example. So we were in the retail industry. So Capillary, we were having a product which was essentially used by large retail companies like Landmark, Madura Garments, Pizza Hut, Puma, to name a few. Right? So we always wanted to do good. We wanted to invest money in corporate social responsibility. Then there are multiple choices, right? You can invest in education, invest in health, so on and so forth. So what we said, hey, we're in the retail industry. Let's speak to some folks in the retail industry and see, is there any cause within the retail industry we can invest the money on, right? And what we spoke to a bunch of our customers, and what we figured out was the store staff, right? If you go to any store, so the folks who are in the counter, the folks will show you the products, right? What we found out was these are the people who essentially come from very simple background, and a lot of them drop out of their school, right, and their college, because mostly they have the pressure of earning, earning very quickly because of the family pressures. So what we said, let's do this, right? Let's empower this humble, aspiring individuals, and really, really offer them retail management course, which will help them move up the ladder and potentially become a manager, actually. Right, again, so finding the right audience I just spoke about. So what we did, see, end of the day, we will not be able to deliver this program, right? So we're not in education, but we were into retail tech product, actually. So what we did is we partnered with Retail Association of India. Interestingly, Retail Association of India already had a tie-up program with IGNO, which had a program called BBM, which is BBA, sorry, Bachelor of Business Administration, with a specialization in retail management. So what we said, great, let's give scholarship for 50 aspiring retail store staff, right? And then it's a great way to sort of give back and also sort of build the brand, right? And we had a great story, actually. Yeah, so most importantly, create win-win, right? So win-win-win is win for the audience who is a store staff, win for the brand. A lot of the customers, when we went and asked them, hey, would you mind nominating 10 people from your company for this scholarship, so that while they get this BBM in retail management degree, and they will potentially become your next best manager, right? And they said, wow, we would love it, and win for us, right? Of course, it's a brand. So what we did when we launched this program, we went and spoke to the store staff. We already had this insight saying that they're very aspiring. They want to make it big, but they just don't have that outlet, right? So we went and spoke to them, really brought out that the core of the story was about the aspiration, right? The aspiration that they want to break out of the current job, and they want to make it big, actually. And then finally, we put out this story saying, we are launching this capillary scholar program where we want to fund scholarship of 50 aspiring smart retail store staff and help them sort of complete their bachelor's. And guess what? This video, it reached about 25,000 plus audience, and mostly this is our buyers, right? Because on LinkedIn, we were having a huge follower base, and everything is organic. What we did is we also sent this post as an email to a bunch of our customer CEOs, and they in turn engage with it, and then in the longer run, it also created that softer connect, saying that we also care for their employees, right? We also care for their employees. And the fourth growth hack, right? Let's say you as a company or as an individual, you put out a post, and let's say 25 people engage with the post, right? And then you potentially don't know some of them because they would have just liked the post. How do you convert these people who liked your post into real leads, right? So one way to do it is go and click on this 73, and this is an example, and it will pop up all the people who are liked, and go to their profile, get their email ID, and possibly reach out to them. That's the manual way of doing it, right? And there's this amazing tool called Phantom Buster, where what you have to do is, if you posted something, let's say this post has 73 likes, just give this link in Phantom Buster and click on this button called Use this Phantom. It will essentially give the list of all the people who have engaged with the post, right? That's the step number one. So if you go to this LinkedIn post like as Phantom, where you would give the link to the post where you want to scrape this information. So the output of that is a list of people, list of LinkedIn So country is India, industry is OTT. So find out if there is any security concerns or insights about this industry, which will be relevant. Then companies Hotstar. So talk about find out some insights about the company. Let's say Hotstar has grown from, let's say, 10 million users to 50 million users. That can be good insight, right? Because the more growth happens, the more attention it would grab from, let's say from scammers and hackers and whatnot, right? So on the same lines, so find out what are the security platforms they're using. The product stack is implement. What is the let's say they're using an antivirus. Which antivirus are they using at the corporate level, right? Let's say if you want to talk to the chief compliance officer, find out more information about that individual, right? So where did they work? How many years of experience they have? What are the roles and responsibilities? Have they won any awards? Aggregate all of this information, right? And finally, convert this research into specific emails, right? I will quickly show an example. So we wrote this email to the e-commerce slash chief digital officer for Inox. It is one of the leading multiplexes. So this was the final outcome of the email, right? So where we found out this individual have won an award. So we started the email by saying, hey, it's great to know that you won an award. Then congratulations. Then we talk about first show where for all the Geo fiber users, Geo announced saying they're going to launch some movies. I would say it's a foresight because now some of the folks like Hotstar are already doing it actually. So we took that insight, which said, how is this going to impact you, right? And then we sort of used all the insights about Inox, about the number of consumers they have, a number of screens they have, and what is the potential outcome that we can deliver and how we can deliver the outcome. And we also spoke about hey, talk to us if you're interested actually, right? And it worked. It actually worked. We did had some productive meeting while we didn't close the deal, but the point I'm trying to make is, just a minute, systematically, if you really want to reach out to a specific individual in a company, so spend a lot of time in connecting the dots around that individual, the company, what are their objectives, then what are the use cases that you can deliver for that company, right? And then you will definitely increase the chances of getting a meeting actually, right? Let's take the same example for students, right? So students, let's say you're looking for a job, don't write a spam mail saying, hey, I'm interested to work with you and here is my profile, right? Don't do that. Don't ever do that mistake actually, right? So rather than that, take a step back, figure out companies you want to work with, then figure out, let's say you're in marketing, find out who are the marketing leaders, the officer, It's a director of marketing or a VP of marketing. Find their email IDs, right? You know the list of companies. Find a set of people who are potentially who will hire you. Find out their email IDs using tools like Rocket Reach. Then do a bit of research, right? Let's say an individual is there, they worked in different companies, and some of those companies are your dream companies potentially, right? Or uh, uh, the CMO of a company whom you want to work with has spoken about in an event, and what he or she spoke about in that event is something it was very insightful for you, right? So use these insights, uh, find out where the company is headed to, what have they done in the past, and then use those insights in your email. Tell them, hey, Mr. X, or hey, Mrs. Y. Uh, it's impressive to know that what you have done in the past. It's great to know that your company is growing from X to Y. It has garnered some awards, so on and so forth. And to work with you, right? And why you are interested to work with that specific individual and the company. So talk about three things you can deliver, right? uh, you can tell them you have past experience, or you can accept that you are a fresher but you are excited to let's say make a difference in three different fields, right? So let's say you're in you are a designer. Go to their website and figure out what are the top three issues their website has, and talk about that, right? When you talk about what are the things that you'll make things differently. Maybe if you're a designer, talk about three flaws the website has. Don't tell tell that in a negative sense. Tell them what are the three things which can be improved, right? Let's say on the website, right? And then shoot an email, and I can trust you. I can vouch for you. One would at least reply back saying, "Hey, we're not looking for opportunities, but thank you so much for taking time out to really understand and know about the company," right? And that's a connection for lifetime that you can build, right? So that's all I had. I think I actually spoke longer than we expected. Yeah, if you really want this deck, happy to send it across. Just write a LinkedIn post and tag me. Actually, I think I will end the conversation. We will definitely have a Q&A, but I'll end the conversation saying this one powerful quote from Edison, where he says, I never failed, but I've just found out 10,000 ways that didn't work, right? And this holds very good for growth hacking, because you would constantly do experiments. A lot of times you will fail. A very few times you might win. You will win, and when you win, you will win big. A lot of the times, right? And this doesn't necessarily mean you have to keep failing. If you do the same thing again and again, if you fail, it's a mistake, right? So the first time it's a learning, second time it's a failure possibly. But this is definitely a powerful quote we can possibly take away as we can. This is a quote I think which we can remember as a takeaway. Yeah, so you can visit my website, and I'm on LinkedIn. But most importantly, right now, I'm happy to take questions.
Sure. So I think it was last 1 hour was the most valuable learning for all the students, and your 15 years of experiences and the countless failure you have summed up into the few growth hacks. I think that would be really valuable for all the students if they want to launch startup, or maybe they want to grow their personal brand. I think these are some of the very interesting growth hack techniques that you have shared, especially the LinkedIn one, especially the how we can get featured on the top news media for a startup. I think these are some of the things which are very difficult and very time consuming. But like you have shared the complete strategies with the practical examples, starting from the Airbnb to the Forbes, you have actually shared all the learnings with the practical example. So I think this would be a gold mine for all the students if they implement even the few growth hacking techniques into their own startup to grow. I think you don't need to look back. I think future is extremely bright for you. So I think this was the one of the most memorable and most amazing session. Now I'll I'll request all the participants, if you have any questions, you can just kindly unmute yourself, or you can put your questions into the chat window. Yes, Ritvik has a question. Kindly unmute and ask a question, Ritvik.
Thanks. Thanks. Hi, hey, Ashwin. Nice listening to you. I follow you on LinkedIn and really like the content that you put out there. Really helpful for startup founders like us. So,
Thank you.
one question, just going back to the couple of slides the traction that the post get in terms of impressions or likes is largely dependent on how much I share it and how much my co-founder shares it. So the company page post may get only 300 or 400 impressions. If I share it, I get 3,000 impressions.
Absolutely.
But how do I make sure that the content is independent of the traction that my profile creates and can create a lot of traction on its own?
Sure. Sorry, I didn't get the last point.
I was just saying that how do I get to a point that
Mhm.
the traction that my startup's LinkedIn page gets is not dependent on the traction that my personal profile can create for it?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, I would say. That's a great question. In fact, I was coming to this. So I think as Facebook has evolved, even LinkedIn has also evolved. If you see, there is a huge portion of your feed inventory is allocated to the people you follow, or let's say somebody in your network has sort of liked or engaged with a post from a people whom you don't know actually, right? Compared to companies actually. I think what you asked is great because as you rightly said, typically the company posts get a lot lesser traction unless your company is very big compared to the individual actually. So be very clear. I think the way you can sort of crack this solution is to be very clear about what are the type of content pieces you're going to talk, and what the company handle can talk, right? But end of the day, I will not really make both of them different, very very different, because even as a company, the big problem we have is a lot of the startups just talk about Diwali wishes and festival wishes. That's really the first phase, right?
True.
The most important thing I think the company should talk about is I think as a person, right? As a founder, you will share your insights and knowledge on the same lines with the specific tonality, etc. The company profile should also talk to the audience directly, actually, right? Again, text-based posts, link in the comments, and in some of that, right? I think the linkage between the founder and the company page will always be there. I don't think we can. And I see where you're coming from, right? You want to sort of reduce the dependency, build that as a brand on its own, so that it will take off.
Very true.
And of course, that's definitely always be there. But here's the deal, right? You keep building more and more fuel, possibly one of the top of the funnel for your company LinkedIn page followers, and let the company page can grow on its own, right, as a standalone thing. But keep adding the fuel on the top. You be one of the channels, channels for the growth. So never think of it as an independent thing, but I definitely hear your point where the company profile page is sort of over independent, extremely dependent on the founder.
On the founders,
right?
yes.
Correct. So the best way to do it is, it will take time. The only thing you should do is find out this unique insights, talk about the jobs and the pain points. Again, make it funny. Sometimes, make it look like someone is actually writing, right? Not a very boring brand which is talking something. So Gong is a great example. So Gong, check out Gong's LinkedIn company LinkedIn profile. They do a tremendous job on uncovering insights from the data and talking about humorous things. Talking about some insight which is counterintuitive. for sales reps and sales managers who are the typical users and audience.
Got it. We'll check that out. Thank you. Thanks, Ashwin.
Sure.
Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Shivangi.
Hi, good evening, sir. It was a really awesome session. My question is that I am a one-year-old company and I am into exports mainly. So if I want to reach out to more retail stores for my products in different countries, or international distributors for my products in different countries, what is the best way?
Sure. Again, while it's a very specific question, so what do you do, Shivani? What products will quickly?
It is actually home decor, wooden products, so clocks, candles, decor products. So I've been exporting to more than 4 countries currently, but I want to expand.
You want to expand? Okay. Yeah. So be very clear about your buyer, actually, right? Very absolutely clear about your buyer. Whether it's an intermediary, whether it's you want to sell directly to the retail shop, because unless you're very clear about this persona, it's very, very challenging, right? You will not be able to write for everyone, actually. Maybe some of the, and if you're just talking about retail, then if you're selling, let's say, Indian home decor stuff, right? There is a lot of stuff to tell, right? About because every region has their own art, and talk about them, actually, right? Really talk about them. Talk about some of the some of the historical stuff. Talk about let's say how rosewood is different. Rosewood furniture is different. Let's say you are home. If it's home decor, then really talk about how rosewood is sort of different, even though it's pricey. But how is it actually different in a furniture? And at least what I know is rosewood is mostly used in high-end furniture. Right, one of the things, at least it's an old school thing, right? So be very clear about your audience. Let's say your audience is your retail merchandising folks in the US. Of course, there is a huge Indian population in the US who would always love to buy Indian furniture out there. If you know that there are 100 companies out there, find out those people in those 100 companies. Start adding them on LinkedIn, right? The number one point is they being in your network, right? It's highly unlikely, that if they are your third connection, it's highly unlikely that they'll see your content. If they don't follow you, you go and add them in your network, right? And write a note saying, hey, we're the small company, but this boutique company, who do this, would like to get connected and exchange notes, right? So imagine 200 people, you will add and 100 people would accept, right? So then you can start writing this content, which stories, which we just spoke, about Indian furniture, Indian art, which is highly differentiated, so on and so forth, right? So then these people who are in your network would start really engaging with it, actually, right? Speak to some of the folks, ask them, what is it that they liked about your post, actually, if somebody has liked. I think while we can talk about it, I think in a nutshell, find out those people, start adding them on LinkedIn, make them your friends, so that what you share will go to them potentially, and then be very specific about if it's a retail merchandise head, for a retail store in the US, talk about when they think about Indian furniture, they should remember you, right? They should remember you. How their mind will remember is the kind of stories that you tell, right? They will, in fact, they will possibly reach out to you, say, hey, looks like you have a lot of knowledge in this space. Can you help me find out some vendors in the space, right, in India, right? That might happen, actually.
Right, got it. So till now, I've been very specific in my product category. That's not a basic product. It's a luxury, high-end product, and I'm clear with what kind of people I'm targeting. So till now, the strategy that I had been using is that I used to visit the websites of retail shops, and in their contact us session, I used to find their emails and then reach out to them personally.
Yeah,
So
but this contact us section, I think most likely they will go to some operator or someone, right? So I'm not sure whether. So find out people on LinkedIn, and then definitely while you add them on LinkedIn, also you can do the cold outreach.
got it. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Great. Any further questions from anyone? You can kindly unmute yourself, or you can put it into the chat window. Uh, I guess most of the questions were already uh, discussed and elaborated beautifully into the last 45 minutes. And regarding to the growth hacks, Ashwin, I think you have clearly, stated all the things, and all the questions and doubts were completely done into the last 45 minutes. So I guess no more questions from participants. Now I think it's time to wrap up. One last question, Ashwin, how was your experience into the Digi Masterclass 3.0 organized by Digital Gurukul?
Yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun to let's say Shivangi asked this question, and then I really always like to sort of thrown with the problems, right? How do we solve this? How do we reach out to them? How do we engage? Uh, so I think it's been fun. I definitely learned because the more I speak, I will also sort of discover, okay, um, on the fly, you know, this idea I would have done better, right? So it's also a discovery process. So yeah, overall, it has been great. Thank you for the opportunity.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Ashwin, for the kind words. And thank you so much, all the participants, for attending the masterclass. And with this, we sign off for the today's masterclass. Our next masterclass updates will be shared onto the social media. That would be in the next 2 or 3 days. From entire Digital Gurukul family, I thank Ashwin for taking out the time and sharing your valuable knowledge and insight. And definitely, this would not be just our 1 hour interaction. It would be a long-term association that would definitely would obviously want from Ashwin. And will definitely any opportunity comes in any digital space, Ashwin, definitely you would be the first person that we would entire team would contact. So I think it was an amazing experience. And we hope to see in the DG Masterclass. We will be having a more such speakers sharing the thoughts and experience on different topics. And with that note, we'll end up the session. Thank you so much. Take care. Good night, and see you very soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone, and wishing you the best. And then please stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.